Arm talent. It's a phrase that comes up constantly in conversations about quarterbacks, but what does it really mean? It's more than just arm strength. While arm strength is a critical piece, arm talent refers to a broader skill set that separates the good quarterbacks from the great ones. It's the ability to combine raw power with touch, a lightning quick release, and precision, especially under pressure or off platform. The best quarterbacks can maintain velocity, accuracy, and control on the ball even when the play breaks down. In today's NFL, arm talent has become one of the clearest indicators of a quarterback's potential ceiling. I'm Jackson McIntyre. I co-host the Weekly Blitz podcast with Joel Moran here on the Pick a Side channel. I worked for PFF for 8 years as a senior analyst, quarterback, and coverage expert, where I worked with coaches and players to break down all aspects of the passing game for NFL teams, media companies, and consumers. In this video, using examples displaying arm talent and the lack of it, we're breaking down that advantage that possessing it provides. This Kyler Murray touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great look at an all-encompassing arm talent throw that meshes all of these traits together. Arizona is running a variation of the Yankee passing concept against a cover 3 lock from Miami here, with Jalen Ramsey playing press man on Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, on a Yankee concept, you're going to have Michael Wilson here on a deep post with a deep over from Marvin Harrison Jr. The idea here is to put the deep middle safety in a bind. He needs to make a decision to either stay on the deep post or to help out on the deep over. You can see here that the deep middle safety is signaling for 29 to come off of this deep post, and he wants 29 to fall back down and pick up this deep over. However, 29 is late to pick this up. You can see that he's out of position now here in no man's land. And then you've got Ramsey trailing the deep over. But this throw isn't as easy as it might seem right now. As Kyler's loading up right here to throw it, he needs to be wary of Jalen Ramsey's ability to potentially undercut this. With this spacing here now, if he had thrown this on a straight line, this is an easy play for Ramsey to come underneath the ball and either break up or potentially even intercept it. What Murray has to do is put enough torque on the ball combined with touch to drop it over the top and get it to Marvin Harrison Jr. before he gets to the boundary. Murray needs to prevent a situation where Marvin Harrison Jr. has to slow down at the boundary, because if he has to slow down, Jalen Ramsey's going to catch up. You can see the way that the ball drops in there, over the head of Ramsey and in a place where only Marvin Harrison Jr. can catch it. This is a play where arm strength alone doesn't cut it, but also touch alone doesn't cut it. Because again, timing is a factor here. The ball needs to get from here to here before Marvin Harrison Jr. gets to the boundary. Now here's the end zone view. You can see Kyler first reading the safety's drop. So he's opening his hips here and opening to the field. So Kyler's already got an idea that that safety is going to stay on this deep post. So now right here, once that safety has now committed, and Kyler sees that this deep outside zone defender is out of position with his hips facing in opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, he knows that this throw is here. But watch how fast he gets this throw off. He doesn't really step into this. And you can really see from this angle that if this ball is not thrown over the top, and if it's more on a line, Jalen Ramsey is going to be able to undercut this. He's a big corner with ball skills. This throw displays immense arm talent. A common throw where we see arm talent displayed or not displayed on is the hole shot. The hole shot refers to a throw into the soft spot of a cover 2 half or full field coverage in between the flat defender and the deep half zone defender. Here's Fields ripping one from the far hash. Now 24 plays this poorly. He's late to get depth, but this is what arm strength can take advantage of. With Fields initially rolling left, the backside coverage gets a bit lazy before being exposed with the sheer velocity Fields puts on the ball. Now here's another hole shot from Fields, this time against an inverted cover 2. So you're going to have this safety trickle down to play the Tampa zone, which is that middle underneath zone that's going to be played from depth here, so a bit deeper than the other underneath defenders. You're then going to have this safety here dropping back to play the deep half. Now, this is an interesting play because Fields kind of manufactures this window. He starts with a half right read, so he's reading the right half of the field. He doesn't like it, and so he comes back to the left and then scrambles out of the pocket. This time he's throwing off platform. And we'll take a look at that end zone view to get a better look here. So you can see that as he rolls left, he's drifting. He does flip his hips, but you can see that his momentum is very clearly going to the left. He's not on balance here, but he's still able to generate enough torque on this ball to deliver it before the safety is able to close, or that flat defender is able to get depth back and potentially make a play on the ball. This is what arm talent adds. Here's a whole shot rep from Mahomes. Again, this is going to be off platform, in between that deep half defender and that flat defender who's gaining depth back. And theoretically, this flat defender should be able to get to the ball and make a play on it. But the way that Mahomes, once again here, just like Kyler did earlier, blends torque and touch to kiss this over the top is an incredible display of arm talent. Just over that flat defender's outstretched hands. We can look at the end zone here to get a better view of that. So right there, just in the perfect spot, once again, before the deep half safety and the flat defender can get back to make a play on the ball. Now here's an example of a lack of arm talent on a hole shot. Once again, we're going to be throwing into a cover 2 coverage where you have this DB here dropping to play the deep half, and then you've got this corner here playing the flat. So he's going to be jamming and then getting depth. Now Daniel Jones here is going to have a clean pocket, and he just is not able to get enough on this ball to get it, 1, over this flat defender, and 2, before this safety is able to close on the ball. In fact, both of those things actually happen on this play. Just before the ball gets to the catch point, not only do you have the flat defender who's dropped and is in position to make a play on the ball here, but this safety who's kind of overrun this play, but he's still gotten to the play. The margins are very tight for these throws, and just that extra tick of the ball in the air can easily allow these pro caliber athletes to close on the ball, as we see here. Using elite arm talent to fire the ball in between zones isn't just about hole shots against cover 2 coverages. The same concept applies when attacking openings in any zone defense. Here, Justin Herbert threads the ball between an underneath hook curl defender and 2 deep zone defenders against a cover 3 coverage. We have the hook curl zone defender dropping, and he's got some good depth here. We've got the deep middle zone defender turning his hips to close on the ball, and then we've got the deep outside zone defender with his hips inside, and he's about to try to tighten this window and close up the seam. And as the ball arrives here, you can see that it was thrown over the hook curl, dropping underneath zone defender, and with enough torque to get the ball to the catch point before 29, who's the outside deep zone defender in the cover 3 coverage, and the deep middle zone defender could close on the ball. This is a common theme with arm talent and the way that arm strength expresses itself on the football field. Here's another example with Darnold pushing this downfield over a trailing defender and before the closing safety can make it to the catch point. This was a very slight underthrow but still beat coverage with a blend of touch and velocity on the ball. From the end zone here, we can clearly see that this was a drop by the receiver. Now here's a recent throw from Caleb Williams. This was at the end of the game to put the Bears in field goal position to send the game to overtime. So the ball is coming out right now. He's targeting this deep dig from DJ Moore. However, as you can see, this dig is running right into this underneath zone defender's coverage, who's got good depth because the defense is anticipating that the Bears are trying to get a chunk play here to get into field goal range. Caleb probably isn't too worried about 7 here, as 7's going inside following this receiver here who's working across the field. But to fit this ball in here, Caleb throws an absolute missile and gets this from point A to point B in a blink. Just look at the heat on this ball here. I think the end zone view here will do it more justice. Look at how it's getting just over the outstretched hand of 44 here. This is not a case where the defender just missed the ball. We see that sometimes, where the ball comes through, the defender swings and misses, and then the receiver catches it. This is not just a defender error. This is a precise pass that is thrown with an immense amount of arm talent so that the ball gets right here before the defender can get any more depth, which would allow him to then get his hand on this ball. Everything about this throw, from the sheer torque on the ball to the kiss of touch to put it just over the defender's hand, is arm talent personified. Now here's a really cool play and just an awesome job by Jordan Love pre-snap to gather data and get a read on the coverage. So watch Cam Bynum here. The defense lines up in a middle of field closed pre-snap look, which means that pre-snap the defense is showing that there's a safety deep in the center of the field. But Jordan Love, with a hard count, is going to get Bynum to show his hand. And what that's going to be is Bynum is going to expand, thinking that the ball is going to be snapped. And what that's telling Jordan Love is that this is likely a cover 2 coverage, with Cam Bynum expanding to be the deep half defender to the boundary. So here comes a hard count, and boom, right there. Cam Bynum is showing that he's going to expand. Now he's going to kind of catch himself and try to go backwards and backtrack, but his hand has already been revealed. So there he is, working back a bit there. And so what Jordan Love knows now is that post-snap, this is going to be a middle of field open look. Now, a middle of field open coverage look is going to refer to coverages where the center of the field is open, or there's no center deep defender. So think of like cover 2 or cover 4 or even cover 0. And then a middle of field closed coverage would be a coverage where there is a center of field deep defender. So like cover 1 or cover 3. Now, the interesting thing here is that Jordan Love here is expecting cover 2 with Bynum expanding out here. But the question is, where's the other deep half defender coming from? Normally cover 2 is played with 2 safeties. But here, this is going to be an inverted cover 2. You're not going to have this linebacker type here dropping into a deep half. That just doesn't happen. He doesn't have the speed or the range for it. So it's going to be one of these 2 defenders. And based on leverage, Jordan Love is probably thinking it's going to be this outside corner. Now, the issue here for the Vikings defense is that Jayden Reed is ripping this straight down the middle. And this is a lot of space for this deep half defender to close on, especially with this massive leverage disadvantage for him. Jordan Love is throwing this off his back foot with this defender starting to collapse the pocket on him. And as we expected, we had that corner drop to the deep half, and then we've got Reed here ripping deep down the middle. And with Bynum expanding to the boundary half, Bynum's not really a threat here. The only hope here for the Vikings is that maybe 58 can get enough depth here, but with Jordan Love's arm here, good luck. And you can see that he's able to deliver that despite this ball being thrown off that back foot and with that backwards lean. The torque that he's getting on this ball is phenomenal. Here's the end zone. Here's another throw from Love, again versus the Vikings defense. This time it's going to be a throw versus quarters. So the main difference here is that Love doesn't have that massive amount of space he had on that last play to work with. He's got much tighter safeties here. In quarters, you've got a 4 deep shell. He steps into this one and just threads that needle. Weaker armed quarterbacks just can't make this throw. Here's a great example of that. We've got Jimmy Garoppolo back in his 49er days. The defense is in a cover 2 coverage with the middle of the field wide open. Jimmy's got a relatively clean pocket here to step up in and make this throw. But you're going to notice a vast difference in arm talent here. Look at how long this ball flutters in the air. And that extra time allows for the safeties to close on the ball and make a play on it. This throw has 2 options. If it's thrown slightly earlier, So if it's out a split second before it is here, so if instead of winding up to throw here, he's already letting this go, if he's got the arm strength, he can rip this down the middle on a line. The other option is to throw it with more arm, and instead of having this drop in here, to have it drop in right about there in the end zone, which allows that receiver to run under the ball as he's got some clear separation on either coverage defender. But Jimmy doesn't have the arm talent to A, get enough on the ball to throw it into the end zone and lead that receiver under the ball, or B, to throw it with a bit more velocity and get this to the receiver sooner in between the two coverage defenders. To this point, I've been highlighting the way that arm talent can beat zone coverages, but the same is true versus man. Arm talent helps a quarterback throw open a receiver, or in other words, beat coverage with the throw. You'll see Caleb Williams do that here, where he's targeting an outside release go ball to Rome Odunze, who's got pretty tight coverage on him here. But this ball is thrown with nice torque and touch once again to drop this in a bucket into the outside shoulder of Rome Odunze, downfield and away from coverage. This is a man coverage beater where the throw beat coverage. Look at that. This is dropped right into that pocket, that outside shoulder pocket where the defender is not able to make a play on the ball. This takes velocity or torque, I've been using those two words interchangeably, and touch to get it over coverage in the first place. And blending those two things is an issue that weaker armed quarterbacks commonly face. Here's a very similar throw from Dak Prescott. Unfortunately, Dak is on the list of quarterbacks who routinely face issues due to their arm not being up to par with some of the other quarterbacks in the league. So Dak starts by looking off coverage, and he's ultimately going to be targeting this outside release go route. So he comes back here, he steps into this, he's got a very nice base. No pressure really in his face, and even though one blew up the running back, he's not affecting Dak's ability to step up into this throw. Now, in addition to this ball being underthrown, it's also thrown inside, into the leverage of the defender. This ball should be thrown outside to the boundary, allowing the receiver to run under the ball. But instead, it's placed inside and underthrown. Dak's inability to push the ball downfield, particularly in moments where the Cowboys have dug themselves into holes and they need to make up points, has been a problem throughout his career. Another category of dropbacks where arm talent rears its head is in collapsing pockets or in the face of heavy pressure. A stronger arm is able to control the ball and drive it despite imperfect pocket scenarios where fundamentals like footwork or follow-through technique may be sacrificed. On this play, the pocket crumbles around Darnold, but he's still able to throw a missile to Jefferson despite the fact he's drifting into a hit and isn't able to step into the throw. To contrast this, here's a play of Bryce Young facing a very similar situation. The pocket's closing, and he's got pressure right in his face. The ball comes out just before he's hit, but he's not able to get the same amount of torque on the ball, leading to it falling dead at the receiver's feet. From this angle, we can see it a little bit better. So he's drifting to the left just as Darnold was. We can see that he's not able to step into the throw, just as Darnold wasn't. But the ball's coming out here just before the hit, but unlike Darnold, there's not as much control on the ball here. When we put these plays side by side, we can really start to see the advantages that possessing arm talent give a quarterback. Here's another one, this time it's Justin Herbert. Pocket's collapsing, lineman is being pushed back right into his chest, but he's able to stand strong, and despite the fact that he can't step up into this the way he'd like to, he rockets this in between two tight zone defenders into the open receiver. If this ball's not thrown with the amount of velocity it is, it may not be able to get through these two underneath coverage defenders. This is a very narrow space to put this ball in between. And to contrast that, here's Gardner Minshew. Similar situation. Pocket's collapsing. He's got a receiver screaming open over the middle. But when Minshew isn't able to step into this throw, he doesn't have quite as much control over the ball as Justin Herbert does because he's not following through with his body, and that causes this ball to be severely underthrown. And this isn't to say that Gardner Minshew can't hit this throw, because he can and he has, but it makes the rate of failure much higher because he doesn't have the same amount of control over the ball when his mechanics and follow-through aren't there. Here's one of my favorite throws of the 2024 NFL season so far. This is from Week 11, Bills vs. Chiefs, to Amari Cooper. This is a zero blitz. You've got man on man, man on man, man on man, and man on man. Despite this blitz, now one thing I want to point out is just that explosion right here that Amari Cooper gets on that little slant and go. Look at this corner's body. His leverage is just completely lost to Cooper. But off his back foot, with a defender right in his face, Allen throws this with incredible arm talent. Now, this is a case that is not just arm strength, this is arm talent. Here's the ball right here. Came out from somewhere over here and went way up here. And he's throwing to a spot here. He is dropping this in a bucket, allowing Cooper to run towards the sideline and adjust to the ball and run under it. But the key here is that he throws Cooper open. Cooper runs under the ball instead of having to stop for it, which allows him to catch this uncontested and keeps this corner from making a play on the ball. And apologies to Dak, but I'm back for another one. We're going to get one-on-one coverage down here. Outside release, go ball. He's going to have to throw this off that back foot. But unlike Allen, he doesn't have the same level of arm talent as we've already seen. And the way that this ball comes out, it just flutters. And it gives so much time for that center field safety, who is lined up somewhere over here, to get all the way over here and make a play on the ball. And even if he hadn't, the placement here is underthrown, and Zero is also there to make a play on the ball. Now, this is a hard throw, and I'm not saying that someone with more arm talent makes this throw every single time, but these downfield throws to beat coverage, especially when pressured, are throws that Dak routinely does not make when he has to push the ball vertically. And it's not just Dak, it's a list of quarterbacks that lack strong arm talent. Jordan Love again here, top of the drop, pressure in his face. This throw is coming off this back foot. He's not able to step into this. He's targeting this deep out, so he's throwing with some anticipation here. And you can see that this separation is not that much. The defender is likely able to close on this ball if it's not thrown with as much torque as it is. So you can see how fast that gets there. It comes out, and it's a missile. Here's that end zone. You can really see from this angle how he's not able to step into this. Another throw that beats coverage. Contrasting that, here's Aiden O'Connell. Similarly, not able to step into the throw, pressure in his face, but he doesn't have the same arm talent that Jordan Love does. So when he has to throw with only arm here and isn't able to use his body or technique to step into this, the ball just dies. We can see that here from the end zone. You can really see that from his base where there's nothing coming here. This is all arm, and he's just not able to get enough on it. Here's another one. Teddy Bridgewater rolls left, targeting this out from Waddle. Need the ball to come out hot so it's able to get to Waddle before he gets to the sideline, and he just can't get enough on it. Pressure in his face. It's a tough throw, but this is all arm, and Teddy just doesn't have a lot of arm. Lacking arm talent just limits the amount of throws that you can make. Now here's Bo Nix, and here's the thing about Bo Nix, is when he has a clean pocket and he's able to step into his throws, his arm is very solid. He has a better arm than I thought he had coming out of Oregon. But when he's pressured a bit and when he's drifting and off balance and his platform isn't underneath him, the ball comes out with a lot less heat. Here he's under pressure, he's drifting left, and this ball just dies well before it reaches the receiver. This throws all arm, and he's just not able to get enough on it. Let's look at a few plays outside of the pocket where arm talent tends to shine the brightest. We'll start with a couple of Josh Allen throws. So let's look at him as he's throwing this. He's taking a bit of contact from behind, and he's got two defenders in his face. He wasn't able to step up at all and has no platform whatsoever. He's targeting 10 here, who's open. But when you're not able to throw with proper mechanics, it's risky to push this ball downfield because these defenders will quickly be able to recover and get depth back on what's likely going to be an underthrown throw if you don't have the immense amount of arm talent that someone like Josh Allen has. So let's look at how this ball is delivered. It allows 10, Shakir, to keep drifting upfield and come underneath the ball here. Because Josh Allen was still able to lead him downfield, this ball is a completion and a massive gain. Let's look at the end zone here. Scrambles right, pressure, and just look at how he's throwing this. He's not generating anything with his hips. This is all arm. So there's that contact. You can see he still has the ball in his hand and he's taking a shove from that pursuing pressure defender. And look at that. That is just incredible. Here's another one. Josh Allen again. Pressure, scrambling right. And once again, drifting off platform, but this time he's not targeting anyone here. Typically, a quarterback with less arm talent would be limited to essentially having to target one of these three receivers. And as you can see here, nothing's open. So this is just a dead ball that a quarterback with less arm talent would just be throwing out of bounds. But Allen here is looking downfield and he's seeing that he's got a receiver with a step of separation from the coverage defender. And this is part of what makes arm talent so difficult to deal with as a defense playing coverage. When you're on the backside of the play relative to the scrambling quarterback, so with Josh Allen scrambling to the right here, everything over here, right? So where he's targeting, this is all the backside of the field. But you have to stay sticky in coverage against a quarterback like Josh Allen because if you're not, this happens. Cameraman didn't even get it. So not only is he throwing this backside, but he's leading the receiver. If this isn't thrown in front of the receiver, this trailing defender will easily be able to make that play and undercut it. But because it's led and thrown out front, thrown with no base for a massive chunk gain. And here's that end zone. Just a laser. Now let's look at the same thing from Jacoby Brissett. Bootleg, rolling right, pressure in his face, had to throw that without a base. And this is a much easier throw than what Josh Allen had to make. He's got a good 2.5 yards, 2 yards of separation here. And all he's got to do is with a mix of velocity and touch, as we've talked about, throw this up and lead the receiver under the ball. Similarly to that Josh Allen throw earlier to Amari Cooper, where he just threw it up and allowed Cooper to run under the ball. But Brissett here isn't able to get enough on the ball, and it's vastly underthrown. So here's that end zone. He's rolling right. Again, you can see the separation. There's a spot out here to just lay this up, torque and touch, but this is just not enough on the ball. Now here's a play from Caleb Williams that mirrors that Jacoby Brissett play almost 1-for-1, at least in the setup of the pass. So here he is scrambling right. So he's throwing with pressure in his face, and his legs are awkwardly kicking up into the air. His hips are awkwardly contorted. There's no real mechanics here. This is just sheer arm talent. Now he's targeting DeAndre Swift, who's got some separation here from the defender. But like we saw in that last Jacoby Brissett pass, if this ball is underthrown, then this defender will easily be able to get back into the play. So Caleb needs to be very careful about where he's throwing this. He needs to throw this to a spot that allows Swift to run under the ball and away from coverage, maintaining the separation between the two of them. And unlike Brissett, Caleb is able to do this. So this ball hit Swift in stride, and this space, this separation between the coverage defender and Swift has been maintained. This is throwing your receiver open and beating coverage with the throw. And these are the things that arm talent can do for a quarterback. Now let's look at this end zone view. There's the scramble. And just look at the way he throws this. Look at how his body is like leaning sideways. The feet just kicking out. There's very few quarterbacks that can make this throw. Here's Bryce Young, similar play. Scrambles right. Throwing with pressure right in his face, no base. He's got Thielen getting some separation here. And there's a safety ready to close on this, but if this is thrown, again, with torque and touch toward the sideline, so a little bit off camera here, there's a play to be made, but he doesn't get enough on the ball. It flutters a bit. You can see it too. It's kind of facing down here awkwardly, which is allowing the safety to get into the play, and it's picked off. And I want to finish with a couple of fun plays. For a long time, throwing across your body was taboo. Quarterbacks just weren't supposed to do it. It was seen as bad technique. But if you've got the arm talent and the throw is there, it raises the ceiling and adds another type of throw to your repertoire that you can make and that sometimes you might need to. So here's Josh Allen. Scrambles right again. And look at what he's got here. So this is way too far across his body. If he tries to throw this, even if he's leading this receiver, this DB is going to way too easily be able to undercut that. Now over here, this receiver, if he works back a bit, there'd be something there. But here's Diggs. There's a bit of separation. It's not as far as this guy over here, and he's not going to have to lead him to the opposite side of the field. He can kind of lead him back to the ball here, but this is still a massive across-the-body throw. There's a yard or two of separation here, and watch the torque on the ball. And fun fact, the temperature in this game was around 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So this ball is a frozen rock that Josh Allen throws like it's a Nerf ball in order to get it to Diggs before that coverage defender is able to close and make a play on the ball. Let's watch this from the end zone. Pump fakes, scrambles right. So here's Diggs. You can see Josh Allen looking right at Diggs here, already thinking about it. And here comes that throw. So defenders closing on the outside shoulder. Josh Allen throws that to the inside shoulder so that Diggs can use his body to shield the defender. But this is just a special throw that only a select few quarterbacks can make. Let's contrast this with a Tua throw where he tries to throw across his body. Scrambles left. So remember, Tua is a left-handed quarterback, so scrambling to his left is an easier throw than scrambling to his right. Similarly to Josh Allen, as a right-handed quarterback, scrambling to his right. Tua looks back here, and he sees Achane, who's basically wide open here. I mean, you've got this DB over the top, but that's a massive gap between the two. And so here comes Tua throwing back to Achane. So the ball is already out. You can see it right here. And look at how much space this defender still needs to close. This is 4 or 5 times as much space as the DB in the previous clip had to close on Diggs. But look at how long this ball flutters in the air. It allows the DB to get back into the play to make the pass breakup. We can get a better look at this from the end zone. So Tua scrambles left, and unlike Allen, he's not able to generate the same amount of velocity or torque on the ball, and it allows the defense more time to get back into the play. That's going to wrap things up here, but I think that depicting these clips side by side and allowing you to see where the arm talent shines through and where it doesn't paints a very clear picture of its value in scouting and why arm talent has become the meta in the modern era of the NFL. Thank you guys for watching. I know this was a long one. Make sure to check out the Weekly Blitz podcast with my co-host Joel Moran and myself. We post that on Tuesday mornings, and there will be more type of videos like this throughout the year. Thanks, guys.